video. If anyone is new here, my name is Michaela and I do a lot of like bookish content here on YouTube. But today I am very excited because I am finally finishing a series that I have been putting off for a very long time, and that is the Cruel Prince series. I actually read The Cruel Prince as like one of the first books I read of the year. It was a 5-star read for me. I think it was actually my first 5-star read of the year. It was just absolutely phenomenal and it's everything I love. I love Fae, I love the lore behind Fae, and The Cruel Prince really took, you know, fairies and that whole like realm and gave it the darkness and the political intrigue that I absolutely love when it comes to stuff like that. And then I just didn't read the rest of it. It has been almost I think 3 or 4 months since I read The Cruel Prince, and I think that's a long enough wait. I'm not sure why I stopped. Again, I loved The Cruel Prince. I think I just went on to the next book and kind of forgot about it, which is very unfortunate. But again, I'm here, I'm going to be finishing the series, and I can't wait to get back into the realm and back into Jude and Cardan's story. I'm just so excited. So I have both books. I got both of these from my library, and I'm going to start with the Wicked King today and then end off with the Queen of Nothing. Again, I'm just so excited to dive back into it. I like remember it. I hope I just like enter the world again. I don't have to like rethink about what's happening, but if I do, that's my own fault, right? I took way too long to read these, but yeah, let's just jump in. Okay, I am not quite halfway done, but I am making very good progress, and luckily my fear of not getting into it did not happen. I immediately was back in the world. It was immediately interesting again, and it's back into the political intrigue and Jude's like fear of the Fae and the constant stepping around things, trying to figure out what people mean. I just love it. It's so fun. And I just like that it still kind of has that dark vibe to it. It's still frightening and scary, and you don't really know if she's gonna pull through or not. Just great. I love this. I love this series so much. I don't know why I ever stopped reading it, but yeah, I'm gonna keep reading. I honestly, just like the speed I'm going at this, I might be able to read both books in one day, which would be amazing. So yeah, I'm gonna keep reading and I will let you know what I think by the end. Alright, so I officially finished The Wicked King and I flew through this book. It took me like 3 or 4 hours, which is fast even by my standards. This is just everything I wanted in a sequel. It, again, just like immediately put me back into the world. The characters were fantastic, the way they grew. I love the way that it expanded on the world and the magic itself. This book takes you to new places in the kingdom, and it expands on character motives, and I just absolutely loved it. It was so good. I think the one thing I really loved about this book is how it expanded Jude and Cardan's relationship and also their own separate arcs. At this point in the narrative, Jude is gaining and maintaining power and trying to kind of control all of the cards that she has in her hand and trying to do that by herself, which is overwhelming and creates all of these issues and problems in the book. But I just feel like it makes so much sense for her character to grow in the way that she does in this book and to make the mistakes that she makes and all of these different things. It just fits her character so well, and I love that. I love that she's still very mistrustful. She's still kind of scheming and trying to play the game that she's been taught to play. Also, the relationship between Jude and Cardan is fantastic. I love just like the true enemies to lovers in this. Like, they're still scheming, they're still trying to one up on each other. It's kind of love, but you're not sure if it is or not, and it's like, this is what I want from a true enemies to lovers. It's just like everything you want in this like political world, and it just makes, again, so much sense for these characters to act the way that they do with the events of the first book and this book. It's just so good. I love the ending of this book. I'm not gonna get into spoilers, but the ending was, I think, the best ending in the 2 books that I've read. It is dramatic, it is crazy, there's this cliffhanger, and you're just like, what on earth is going on, right? Like, what is happening? I didn't think it could get crazier than it already did, and now we're here. It's fantastic. I loved it. I loved everything about it. I will say it wasn't better than the first book, and I don't think it needs to be. I did wish that there was a little bit more political intrigue, because I think the first book you're kind of thrown into this world and you're trying to like understand all of the Fae and how they work along with Jude. And this one, it's obviously continuing on that path. I just wish there was more, but that's just like my own personal preference. I wish it was a little bit darker, maybe a little bit more political intrigue, but honestly it was great. It was exactly what I wanted in a sequel, and now I'm very excited to read the next book. I'm very glad I already have it, because again, I've fallen into this issue in the past where I just stop reading series if I don't have the next one available. So I am going to go ahead and start reading The Queen of Nothing. I am so excited, and see how this story ends up. Oh my gosh, this is just wild. I'm like reeling from the ending of this book. It's insane. Yeah, I guess I finished the series today. I just finished The Queen of Nothing, and I have quite a bit I would like to say on it, because I feel like I have a lot of mixed feelings about this book. I loved the series overall. I'm still wanting to read more, and at the end of this book there was a little preview for how the king of elphame learned to hate stories, and I feel like I want to read it really bad, so I'm gonna see if I can find it on Kindle, but that's besides the point. Let's talk about The Queen of Nothing. I will say the beginning of this book was a little bit slower than The Wicked King and The Cruel Prince. And I think that's for a lot of reasons. I think it needed to be built back up again to where Jude was, and all these different things kind of needed to happen for the story to make sense. So I understand why it had a slower pace at the beginning. However, it kind of reminded me of Feyre and Aquitar when she's like trying to figure out how to answer this riddle. Um, and it's like a very simple, easy riddle, and I felt very similarly about Jude in just like not being able to solve a very simple riddle in my mind. And so it just seemed a little silly to me, which was unfortunate because again, like most of the series has been kind of a little bit dark and is all about that trying to like be tricksy and trying to get things that you want without like outright saying that's what you want and different things like that. So I was a little bit sad that the riddle wasn't as intriguing as I thought it would be, that Jude is like trying to solve. So that was a little bit disappointing. I also will say at the beginning, there's a lot of things that happen in between the Wicked King and the Queen of Nothing that are off the page. Lots of things happen that you're not privy to, and I was a little bit disappointed that I didn't get to see those things take place, those things happen. I guess thinking about it now, it makes sense because Jude also feels disappointed for missing those things in a way, but I don't know, it just felt kind of like an odd choice to be kind of leading up to these, I would say, big moments and having them happen off screen, I would say, or like off the page. It just felt kind of odd to me. However, once things kind of started picking up again around like page 100, it was back to what I loved about the series. So it's slow at the beginning, but it got good again. It got back into the stuff that I love. I really did like that Jude kind of is like building herself back up again, but she's playing with all of the things that she knows now. Like she's a very knowledgeable person in this book versus who she was at the beginning of the series. And I loved that. I love that she's playing her hand very well in this, and she learned from the mistakes that she made throughout the whole series. I really liked Jude's arc throughout this entire series. It was incredible, it made sense, it felt real, even though this world is insane and wild. It just felt like how a mortal human being would act in this world, so I loved that. I will say, I think this is the last like gripe that I had about this, was I feel like Cardan stopped being Cardan in this book. I'm not sure why that is. It just felt a little more like happy-go-lucky, we're all like in this together, and I didn't love that feeling because again, for like the majority of the series, it's very much everyone is thinking about themselves and thinking about their own needs and wants and desires, and nobody else matters. That's just how the world operates. And so it felt a little odd for certain things to have happened in the way that they did. It didn't quite make sense to me, and I think that was because so much happened in between these two books off the page that we weren't privy to. It was just a little bit of an odd choice, I think, in my opinion. However, I loved the ending. I think it made sense how it ended. It fit very well. It tied everything up in a very nice little bow, and I appreciated that. However, this is my, again, this book was, it was very like hit or miss for me. The ending, again, felt like very happy-go-lucky, and part of me is like, yay, I love this. I love like a happily ever after type of deal. Like, I need that in my life. It just felt odd for this series to have that completely. And I do know that there's another duology that came out earlier this year, The Stolen Heir. And so I do know things are not completely resolved, but I wish the book like didn't end resolved, if that makes sense. Since there's more story to be told, and I want more story to be told, I wish there was a few things that were left unsaid that left a bit of tension at the end. Like, it was still like not fully resolved and different things like that. So this book was very interesting to me. I, again, loved the series overall. I'm not disappointed with how this ended. I liked how this ended. I just wish it was a bit better, I think is like the gist of how I'm feeling right now. That being said, I am going to see if I can get the little novella that's kind of previewed at the end of this book, because I feel like it's very, very interesting. It's in Carden's perspective, which I love, so I'm gonna try to find that. And I also found out that The Stolen Heir is currently at my library right now, so I think I'm gonna run and get that and make this video a little bit longer and read those two books as well, just because I can't get enough of this world. I want more. But that being said, I will say this is kind of like a 3-star read for me, which is unfortunate because I really enjoyed the first two books. It just didn't hit that mark with me. But yeah, let's go get those other two books and start reading them. Good morning. It is the next day and I kind of had like a calm morning here and finished up the little novella, which is How the King of Elphame Learned to Hate Stories. And it was very, very cool to see an author write their own POV of the kind of romantic interest, or like just like an alternate POV novella in general. I really, really loved it. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of times I will like immediately go to find fanfics that are in alternate POVs, so it was really cool to see the author do her own version of that with her own characters. I really, really enjoyed it. I feel like I immediately got Carden in this book. It just made all of his choices make sense, and I honestly feel like this made the Queen of Nothing a lot better. It made Carden more believable in that book, so like reading both of them together like side by side really elevated the story overall, and so I highly recommend giving this a read if you have not. It's really, really cool and it's unique. I really love the way that she uses kind of like an anthology in a way and uses like little stories to connect an overall narrative. It just very much feels like folky, like folktale-esque, which fits very much the vibe of her novels. And so I don't know, this was really, really interesting and fun, and I'm glad I was able to find it super quick on Kindle and start reading it because it was just really fun and interesting. But I am going to now spend the rest of today reading The Stolen Heir, which was a book of like a duology that just came out this year. It's not in the same POV, it's not in Jude's point of view. It's new characters. I think it focuses on Oak's story, which is Jude's younger brother. So I'm excited to see kind of what that book entails, if it captures the love that I have for the series now. Hopefully it does. But yeah, I'm gonna go start reading. Alright, So I just barely started The Stolen Heir, and I am just like entrapped by the story already. It is so interesting. I'm really glad that Holly Black like went this way with the narrative. The main character is a changeling, so she is a fae, but she spent the first several years of her life in the mortal realm, and then was taken back to the fae realm. And I love that concept because it kind of puts her in a very similar place as Jude with, you know, like not knowing things, not knowing how the world works all the way, but also just having like this kind of like mistrust of your actual parents, of your actual lineage. Just is fascinating. I don't know. It literally, first chapter, I am just so excited to see how this plays out. I'm already so interested, and I thought having like a brand new character would throw me, but I'm just so glad she went this way. Oh my gosh. My like little like fairy nerd brain is freaking out right now. I'm so happy she went this way. Oh my goodness. Anyway, I'm gonna keep reading, but already very strong start. Again, another book that I absolutely flew through. Oh my gosh. This is absolutely everything I wanted this book to be, and it's so much better than what I could have imagined. I guess I was a little bit fearful after reading The Queen of Nothing, just because I had such like mixed feelings about that I wouldn't like this as much, or I wouldn't like the direction that she was going with it. But wow, was I wrong? This was everything I wanted and more. Honestly, I feel like this is better than The Cruel Prince, and I already adored how that series and that book was and started. This is phenomenal. Spoiler alert, this is 5 stars. I think this is one of the best books I read this year, to be honest. It is incredible. Wow, okay, I gotta get my thoughts all under control here. All right, so the first thing I again want to mention is I love that this book is in the perspective of a changeling. It just adds so much to the world, and adds just a lot of new perspectives of how this world works, the world that she built. I love the fact that she loves her human family more than her fae family. She wants to protect them more, which just makes sense because like she didn't understand that she was a fairy before. She didn't understand who or what she was until her like Seelie parents came to pick her up. And I just thought that whole scene was fascinating. It's something you hear a lot about in a lot of like fae narratives and folklore and all of those different things, but you rarely hear the perspective of the changeling. It's usually the perspective of the human that the changeling was replacing. That was just so smart, and I absolutely loved it. It was great, and a great choice for a main character in this book. Ren is just nervous and unsure of herself, and she doesn't want to be the monster that she fears she is, but also she knows like she is kind of this monster in a way, and like it's so good. I loved Oak in this. I loved that he wasn't a main character, even though like we get to know him through the first series. I do wish we could have seen how he changed. I hope there's like a novella somewhere in the works where we could see Oak's story before this book, because I'm just interested in it. However, I really liked what type of character he is in this book, and I liked that, you know, this innocent kid that we are seeing in the first trilogy is no longer very innocent about how the world works, and we kind of got a taste of him learning that at the end of the series. But it's just really nice to see how like different and mature he is, and how he still like holds on to some of those childlike tendencies, but is just a very different person now. I just thought it fit very, very well with the book and with Ren, the main character's uneasiness towards Oak, because, you know, he is this example of something she's fearful of, which is just so fascinating because, you know, as a reader, you have witnessed this kid basically grow up into this being that someone else is afraid of, and that's fascinating to me. I love that. I really love that hags have a major part to play in this book. It's less about the high courts and more about all of like the unseelie, which are like the lower courts, and all of their brutality and the way that they interact with each other was just fascinating. I loved that this world was expanded in that way, and seeing the brutality of how these lower courts handle things makes, you know, like the things that were in the first series seem very trivial. It's crazy that a world can still be expanded on in this way and made even more interesting, and I didn't think that was going to be the case, but Holly Black did a fantastic job with this. I highly recommend reading this. I don't technically think you need to read the Cruel Prince series to read this. I would because it adds so much, but I will say if you just want to start with this, I think you can. There's enough given to you that you wouldn't be lost. However, I just think it's more impactful if you read all of the books leading up to this. I'm just so obsessed with the series. I want to read the next book right now. I'm so sad that I have to wait for a year. But yeah, if you guys have read any of the Cruel Prince series, or if you've read The Stolen Heir, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. I am going to be writing full spoiler, really in-depth reviews over on my Goodreads, so I'll have those all linked down below for you if you want to kind of get into the nitty-gritty of my thoughts, because I don't want to spoil too much on here. However, I highly recommend reading this series. Again, it's so good, and for someone like me who was just obsessed with this world and with fae and all these things when I was little, this is just the perfect series for me as an adult. It's phenomenal. But I think that is going to be the end of today's video. Thank you so much for watching this reading vlog that turned into a lot more than just finishing a series. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!